Have you ever stood in front of a menu for 10 full minutes, rereading the same four options, imagining every possible outcome of each bite like your future happiness depends on pasta versus noodles? Or maybe you're lying in bed at 2 a.m., replaying a conversation from 3 years ago, wondering if the way you said okay sounded passive aggressive. Meanwhile, everyone else seems to glide through life making quick choices, laughing, sleeping peacefully, existing like their brains have an easy mode you never received. If that sounds familiar, you might be someone who overthinks every decision. And most people will tell you that overthinking is simple. They'll say you're indecisive, too sensitive, dramatic. Just stop thinking so much, they say, as if your brain has an off switch next to the light. But that's not the real story. Overthinking isn't a personality flaw. It's not a sign you're weak or incapable. In many cases, it's your brain trying very hard to protect you. Let me show you what's really happening. Imagine your mind as a security team. Most people have a couple of guards casually watching the door, checking IDs, letting life pass through. But if you're an overthinker, your brain hired an entire task force. Floodlights, motion sensors, background checks, a drone circling overhead. Every choice is treated like a potential threat. Every possibility gets investigated. Every outcome gets simulated. You're not doing too much. Your brain just doesn't like uncertainty. And humans, biologically, are terrible with uncertainty. There's this fascinating idea in neuroscience that your brain is basically a prediction machine. It's constantly trying to guess what will happen next so you can stay safe and conserve energy. If the future feels predictable, your nervous system relaxes. But if things feel uncertain, if outcomes are unclear, your brain goes into analysis mode. For some people, that mode is mild. For others, it's like opening 50 browser tabs in your head and forgetting where the music is coming from. So, when you're choosing a career path, or sending a text, or deciding whether you sounded weird in that meeting, your brain isn't trying to annoy you. It's trying to reduce risk. It's scanning for danger, social danger, emotional danger, future regret, rejection, failure, embarrassment, loss. Your mind whispers, let's think this through just a little more, and then a little more, and a little more, until thinking becomes a treadmill that never turns off. But here's where it gets interesting. Overthinking often shows up most strongly in people who care deeply, people who value relationships, people who want to make the right choice, people who have been hurt before and learned that small moments can lead to big consequences. If you've ever been misunderstood, rejected, or blindsided by life, your brain takes notes. It says, next time, we prepare. So you rehearse conversations in advance. You analyze tone. You read between lines. You simulate outcomes like you're running mental rehearsals for a play that hasn't opened yet. It's exhausting, but it's also intelligent. Psychologists sometimes connect overthinking to something called rumination, where the mind loops through the same thoughts, searching for resolution. It's like trying to solve a puzzle without knowing if all the pieces are even in the box. Your brain keeps turning the pieces over, convinced the answer is just one more thought away. But the brain doesn't always know when thinking stops being helpful and starts becoming harmful. Think of it like salt. A little enhances flavor. Too much ruins the meal. Careful reflection helps you grow. Endless mental replay traps you. And society sends mixed signals. We praise deep thinkers, strategic planners, people who consider consequences. But when that same mental depth turns inward and becomes self-doubt or decision paralysis, suddenly it's labeled a weakness. You're thoughtful until you're too much. You're careful until you're slow. You're reflective until you're overthinking. But what if overthinking isn't about weakness at all? What if it's about sensitivity to complexity? Life isn't simple. People aren't simple. Emotions definitely aren't simple. Some brains just refuse to treat them that way. There's also the emotional side. Overthinking often travels with anxiety, and anxiety is basically your nervous system's smoke alarm. It's designed to detect threats quickly. The problem is, modern life rarely involves actual lions chasing us. Instead, we face abstract threats, social judgment, missed opportunities, financial uncertainty, identity questions. Your body reacts to these invisible dangers as if they're physical ones. So your heart races, your mind spins, your thoughts loop. You're trying to survive situations that don't look dangerous, but feel dangerous. And the world doesn't always understand that. Someone says, "Why are you making this such a big deal?" And you wish you could explain that your brain magnifies possibilities automatically, that you don't choose to replay scenarios, that your mind is just wired for depth and detail. It's like having HD emotional vision. You notice micro expressions, subtle tone shifts, hidden meanings. You pick up patterns others miss. That's a gift in art, leadership, empathy, strategy. But in daily life, it can feel like carrying emotional surround sound when everyone else is on mute. You feel everything. You analyze everything. You prepare for everything. And sometimes, you get tired. Decision fatigue hits hard. Even small choices feel heavy. What to wear, what to say, when to respond. Your brain treats each like a branching storyline with infinite consequences. Meanwhile, people who decide quickly seem freer, lighter. But fast decisions aren't always better decisions. They're just different styles of processing. Think of it like driving. Some people speed through roads confidently, trusting instinct. Others drive carefully, scanning signs, checking mirrors. Both reach destinations. One just notices more along the way. Overthinkers are observers, pattern seekers, meaning makers. The challenge is learning when to step off the mental treadmill. And that's not about thinking less. It's about thinking differently. Instead of asking, "What if this goes wrong?" your brain can learn to ask, "What if I can handle it?" Instead of replaying every possibility, you can practice accepting uncertainty as part of being alive. Not every decision needs a perfect answer. Not every choice determines your entire future. Sometimes good enough is healthier than perfect. Your brain wants guarantees. Life offers probabilities, and growing emotionally often means making peace with that gap. There's research suggesting that people who tolerate uncertainty better experience less anxiety and more life satisfaction. Not because they're careless, but because they trust their adaptability. They know mistakes aren't endings, they're feedback. Overthinking assumes mistakes are disasters. Growth assumes mistakes are data. That's a powerful shift. And here's something gentle but important. Your mind learned this pattern for a reason. Maybe responsibility came early. Maybe safety felt uncertain. Maybe you were the mature one, the problem solver, the person who had to think ahead. Your brain adapted beautifully to your environment. It just hasn't realized you don't need survival mode all the time anymore. You're allowed to choose imperfectly, to speak without rehearsing every word, to try without predicting every outcome. You're allowed to live in real time. Overthinking isn't a life sentence. It's a habit of protection that can soften with awareness. And awareness starts with noticing, not judging. When you catch yourself spiraling, you're not failing. You're witnessing your mind at work. That's the first step toward balance. Because the goal isn't to stop being thoughtful. The world needs thoughtful people. It needs empathy, reflection, care. The goal is to let thinking serve you, not trap you. To let your mind be a compass, not a cage. So if you're someone who overthinks every decision, maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're wired for depth in a fast world. Maybe your challenge isn't becoming less thoughtful, but becoming kinder to your own mind. And next time you're stuck choosing, replaying, analyzing, pause for a moment, breathe. Remind yourself that no decision defines you completely, that you're adaptable, resilient, learning as you go. Life isn't a multiple choice test with one correct answer. It's more like jazz, improvised, messy, human, and you're allowed to play your notes imperfectly. If this felt familiar, maybe take a second to reflect on how your mind works. Share your experience. You're definitely not alone in this. And understanding your patterns might just be the beginning of a calmer, clearer relationship with your own thoughts.